Hey everyone, good morning. Christine Sarmiento here. Um, I recorded earlier already the coffee with Christine, but I was gonna rest, but I just saw this interview from ABC 10 posted on YouTube. So I feel strongly about them. So let's see if we can respond to them in real time. A few things that I want to say. So first, technology is not my focus, I guess. Not that I'm bad at it per se, but I don't really stream. So I don't know how to put the picture so you guys can watch at the same time. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it. And I tried it and it looks like it works. And then we're going to respond because I guess what it is that I hear this a lot and there's a lot of rhetorics on these interviews. And it's just kind of sad because I think that's why we are experiencing a lot of disengagement from our community is because they don't even know what they're listening to. They don't even know what's the truth, I guess. I do want to add a few more things before I start playing it. I don't know how long this will go, but feel free to participate if you're in the chat or you're watching this live. A few things. So number one, when you talk about the amount of money that you need to campaign, it's like hundreds of millions of dollars. It's crazy. And this is why normal people like us cannot participate on these things because it's just one of the biggest one of the biggest prize is really breaking through the system because they don't invite you. They don't even mention your name. So the only shot that we got why we're running is because of the advancement in technology that we have YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all these things. But even that has proven, pretty challenging to gain much traction because of what I can sense is two things. So one, the people that would follow you or the people that would like you, of course, automatically like you most of the time because they know you. So they already have that personal relationship. And, it's pretty, I guess, cute because even without knowing much of your policy, they're judging you with your character and their lived experiences with you. And then so you already have their vote for the most part. It's a big chunk of people like that. But what you need to capture as a politician, I guess, is everyone else who don't really know you. But how do you get there? It's like catch 22. How do you get there without a platform, without the news supporting you and whatnot? And because you won't be able to reach out to the people that are not that don't know you. They don't know that you exist. I have friends from the Philippines sending me messages and saying, yeah, I have friends in California and they've never heard of you running. But I don't want to say that it's being gatekept by some people, but I don't think it's intentional. But it is definitely a thing that it's kind of hard to break through. Another thing is that I think most of the time, regular people like us, we're pretty, I guess, insecure in where we stand. That we're like, dude, I don't know half about government. I don't know half about trains. I don't know half about electricity. I don't know half about budget. But this is the secret that they don't tell you. No one does. Like if you think of it logically, there's no possible way for one person to have all the expertise in all these different things that you need to know to run the place. What you need for a governor really is someone that is ethical and who's a good leader. Someone that's not gonna be someone who's gonna be truthful and not gonna try to sell you. I mean, unfortunately, that's how we see politicians, right? But with that being said, I want to respond in real time on this interviews. So most of the time when I hear these interviews, I respond in my head, and sometimes I get pretty passionately annoyed, which I'm not that proud of because both my jobs, I'm required to always be poised. I'm required to always be in a position where I'm holding my cool. But there are moments, I guess it's the mama bear in me, where I feel like there's so much rhetorics and there's so much lies, and we wonder why things are not working. And that's really the thing that pushed me to actually running is watching one of these because I watch it And logically listening to it, it just doesn't make sense. And again, for those people who have considered, even slightly, in running for politics, but you're being stopped because you think that you have this insecurities, because you don't think that you can do it, dude, you should listen to these people. Like, I don't know. I'm really trying my best to not speak ill about others, but I don't know if they don't know what they're talking about, which is fine, because again, as I mentioned, we all don't know everything, or they're purposely being misleading. And the second part is what would be pretty upsetting, I think. But what I'm saying is that it's a lie. There's no one who can do everything. Like, you need a good leader who would be able to know their limitations, invite people in the dialogue, like actually mean it, not like, when you hear them say it as if it's just reading their lines. You need to, like, I guess, give way for people who have more knowledge, if and be a little bit more accurate in terms of your knowledge too. The last thing I want to say is that, again, it's very hard to break through in any of this news media. Like, I tried, my campaign tried to reach out to them for a possible interview and things like that, but they don't even respond. And I'm trying not to be upset, I guess. I'm trying to be a little bit more understanding, knowing that there's 61 candidates. So it must be tough for them to, of course, try to figure out who is the serious candidates. Although I think if you're willing to pay that much money and a lot of work, because that's a lot of legal requirement, just FYI, those are serious candidates. And I think they deserve at least a little bit of luck. So I don't blame them necessarily for not knowing of me and not responding to me. But hey, thanks to YouTube and all this advancement, we can respond ourselves. We don't have to really wait for them. But, as I just posted, I don't know where this campaign will go. And I don't know what's going to happen here very, very soon. But if I'm already walking this path, I might as well show you the truth. I might as well help you decipher, like, all these things that I'm hearing from my own truth. I do want to say that there's still a lot of things that I don't know, and there's a lot of things that maybe I'm wrong in. Probability is, of course, there's things I don't know and I'm probably wrong, but at least Christine right now will be responding with all honesty in this interview, and then we'll see how we go from there. And then also, the last thing I want to say is that Coffee with Christine is 6:30 to 7, which is super early. Of course, people are asleep most of the time, and the recommendation is to stream at like 12 p.m. or 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. when people are in, like, their phones or checking the news. But these people, these politicians can do it because they're free and they're campaigning. So that's part of, like, the gig. Although, I am curious about the people that are currently holding positions. Like, how are they campaigning? Aren't they supposed to work? Because I have to work. So I have to work as a public health nurse from 9 to 5:30, 8 to 5:30. So I can't really do anything within that time frame. That's why I have to do the live streaming at 6:30 in the morning, which is pretty tough. But that's what we gotta do. So anyways, let's play this for what it's worth, and then we'll go from there.
I'm Alex Bell. Thank you so much for streaming with us. This June, Californians will head to the polls to help decide who could become the state's next governor. While the final decision comes in November, for now, 7 Democratic hopefuls and 2 Republicans are leading the race. And to help you get to know them just a little bit better and what they say they would bring to the job, I sat down with the candidates at their state conventions. Now, to keep things fair, I drew names at random for these interviews. So the order of these interviews are on your screen right now. First, you will hear from Steve Hilton, then Matt Mahan, Chad Bianco, Tony Thurmond, Katie Porter, Antonio Villaraigosa, Tom Steyer, Javier Becerra, and Betty Yee.
Yeah, I don't know how they picked that, but I guess that's not a bad number. 9 out of 61. I'm not sure. It gets kind of sad because when we talk about democracy, you're hoping that people will have the opportunity to actually know some of these candidates. My husband was making a point that even printed material, you can just easily put them in like their link or whatever the case may be, so people can at least follow through. But um, yeah, it feels like some type of gatekeeping, but it is what it is, I guess. And then I do want to point out also this election is pretty weird because there's really no front runner. Everyone is even your top people is like less than 15%, so that's very small.
Now, here is Steve Hilton. So, for people that are meeting you for the first time, why are you deciding to run to be California's next governor?
So I love this state so much. I moved here from England in 2012 with my wife and my two sons, taught at Stanford University, started a business, had a new career in the media. I've lived the California dream. It's an amazing place.
So I think California dream is pretty different for people that are coming already with a lot of backing and money. The funny thing is I was at work, my second job last night at like midnight. And one of my coworkers was telling me that this guy, Steve Hilton, was actually all over the news in England just a few years ago. He's always in the news, and he's just, like in the news as a politician, as the right-hand man of a politician. And he was pretty surprised when he saw that he's running for California governor, because it's like, oh, what? Like I thought you're there. But I guess, I guess it's cool. And then I want to say something else. When you listen, especially for people like us coming from humble beginnings, it sounds impressive. Oh, you're teaching in this fancy school and you're, doing this business. All these things, they have, it's already path on their way. So you shouldn't be so, I guess, don't compare yourself with people like him, because they're starting from like raw, like they're starting from level 7, and then so if they get to 10, that's like 3 points. But a lot of us regular people are starting from 0, starting from 1, starting from negative. So these are not point of comparison. It's not a logical comparison to make. We don't want to talk negatively about his advancement. These are like hard work from his parents and the parents of his parents and things like that. So these advancement within generations, that is their credit, their family's credit. And I hope, of course, to have the same thing for my children. But for the most part, when we're comparing ourselves, this is not something that we should say, oh, look at how impressive these people are compared to us. Because while we're working full-time for school and full-time work, work and school at the same time, and trying to find, whoever would hire us. These people have connections and, their paths already laid down. So it's not something that we should compete with. Impressive, sure. We'll give them credit for the 3 points advancement. But for the most part, I think you have to give credit on where you came from. That's also a factor. Not to talk smack again about Steve's, experience. I think he's a pretty active person in terms of his career, which is great. But yeah, it's not. If you look at from the beginning, that's 3 points.
Nowhere better than California, but you can see how badly things have got off track. It's so expensive to live here. It's such a hassle to run a business. And when I think about my business experience, the fact that before moving here, I worked in the government in the UK, senior advisor to the Prime Minister, working to make change happen in government. I've got the business experience, the government reform experience, and the policy expertise to really make a change. And so that's why I decided to throw my hat in the ring.
Those also sound impressive. But let me tell you a story. So we have like the owner of the company, once, for one of the places I work at, one time he came in and he made this like random non-policy approved statement. It's like, hey, do this. I guess it's not in the job requirement, but it's not like it's like something ridiculous. It's just something that we know is not technically allowed. And then so he made the statement that it's like, look, it's so easy. You just do it. It doesn't work like that. there's a lot of people that if they don't have the same authority, they cannot make the same type of change. So it's like how much of your advancement, how much of your things that you've created is actually yours, period. It's like one time I told my husband that I want to pursue stand-up comedy. And I said, we're joking around. And I said, I'm funny, babe. I'm funny. And then I said, when I say a joke, people always laugh. And then he made this statement and he said, how many of those do you manage? How many people that laughs at your joke are under you? So of course they'll laugh. So there is that, there's that data also. So whenever they say things like that, again, how did you get there? How did you get these policies done? Those are in my head questions that needs to be asked. Plus, it's hard to reference somewhere where it's not here. It's not in the US. I don't know how that prime minister did. I saw in the comment that the homeless situation in that place is pretty high. So, it's like, I guess the data gets a little bit too complicated to actually give it credit or remove credit for something like that, something so far, and you're not really directly related to the problem.
Now, if you are to be elected, what would be your top 3 priorities your first year in office?
Well, I can give you one word that captures all of it, which is Californiable.
I knew you were going to say that.
We have to make our state Californiable, but underneath that, there's one very quick change we can make, which is on vehicle registration. I know it sounds like a narrow thing, but it drives people crazy. In other states, it costs under $100 in most other states to register your vehicle. People are paying in California $400, $500, $600, $700, many people over $1,000. I've even had some people say it's over $2,000. We can change all that by getting rid of all the hidden taxes and fees and have a basic flat rate registration of $71. So that's a very simple thing. But
I like the California the bull. That one is a cute like catchword, I guess. So when I first decided to run for governor, this is one of the things that they're talking about. They're talking about, they said that it's not enough to say, oh, you're going to fix affordability, you're going to fix money, or whatever the case may be. You need to actually identify like a place that you're going to make a difference. That's why I think, I don't know for a fact, but that's why he's choosing that California registration for cars. Which is right. There's like a lot of fees. Let me see. I think something about they're going to keep taxing you. Maybe I should research that. But something like, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going by like a quick memory. Something like for the first 5 years of car registration, they're going to charge you as if it's a brand new vehicle. So, of course, the car, as we all know, depreciate in value. But they're charging you as if it's still brand new on top of the fees and stuff. So that's not a not truthful comment. It's true. The $71 is like, I think, a little bit of a stretch from 2000, right? He was saying 2000. And I heard in the news too that what they're doing is that they're registering their cars in a different state just so they pay smaller. And there's a lot of these. There's a lot of these like little fraud here and there that everyone, every level of citizens are doing. And I think the reason is that, they feel like they're being pushed in the corner. So they have to make these type of moves. Let's listen to him.
Of that, I'm going to send a budget to the legislature with my main priorities. $3 gas, cut your electric bill in half, your first $100,000 tax-free, a home you can afford to buy.
Now,
So see, that's an interesting statement. So he said, lower the car registration to $70, $3 gas, affordable homes, and he said something else in terms of, no income tax for 100K or less. So those are like pretty bold statements, right? And I think most people have cars in California. A lot of people have cars, I guess, I guess there's some cities that have a better public transportation than it is in LA. So a lot of people would respond to that. A lot of people would respond to the lower gas. A lot of people would respond to the the registration at $70 and no proper no personal tax at 100K. Of course, everyone wants that. The question is, how do you do it? Because how much is the revenue that you're going to be removing from California? So currently our budget, according to, I think the last one, we're spending about $350 billion with a B. And then the current projection is that we actually spend $420 billion. And then so my question is, for these type of proposals, those are a lot of money that you're removing for the state. Where are you gonna take that? Where are you gonna take that money? Who are you gonna cut? Right. So those are like very significant money. So I mean, I hope he answers it somewhere, but that's kind of what I'm listening to, not just as a politician or as someone who's competing with him, even though, obviously it's not a really even a close fight. He doesn't even know who I am. But where do you get that money from? And when we talk about practicality and with affordability and all these promises, these are the things that we have to ask. Because I guess it upsets me, even before I decided to run, it upsets me when I hear things like this, because I feel like they're playing with our emotions. How do you, it's easy to have an idea. Like it really is. Like people are smart and wonderful and kind, I think, for the most part. So I can always say, like everyone free healthcare, free dental, free cars, free IDs, free everything. But like how do you actually execute? Execution is the hardest part. And I know this as management because, sometimes we get kind of caught with our idea, but then, in terms of like execution, it doesn't really happen. That's why nothing gets done. But hopefully he has a plan. But like these things that he presented, these are like so far from where we're at right now, from doubling our spending the last 5 years. And now like everyone's upset because everything's being cut, including federal. If you're adding more cuts, right, you're going to be losing all that revenue that's supposed to be coming from the state. Then what are you going to cut on the other end? So are you removing the medical, like what programs will you get that money from? Or what programs will end because of this effort? Because that's how it works. It's always a movement. It's never just one thing. But let's keep going. I'm sorry, I'm ranting.
California has spent billions of dollars trying to address the homelessness issue, yet it is still a major problem. What would you do differently if you were to be elected?
So we have to realize that this is an avoidable problem. It's out. You don't see this in other states. You don't see it in other countries. And so we've got to get to grips with it. And it's actually very simple. I've got a 3-point plan. Number one, enforce the law. It's illegal to camp on the streets. All these homeless encampments we see, they're all against the law. So we should enforce the law and remove the homeless encampments. And as governor, if local politicians won't do it.
A few things there because I don't want to miss it. So first he said that it's only here. I mean, there is the advantage and disadvantage, I guess, of having such a wonderful weather. I just walked Barley earlier, my baby dog. But anyways, I just called him my baby. He's not actually a baby, or he's not a young dog. He's a COVID baby. But anyways, that's why they're here. It's because first weather. It's very hard to live outside if the weather is bad. So it's hard to be unhoused somewhere else. And I experienced this when I was working at Downey, when we were doing the massive mass vaccination for LA County. I remember. I mean, it's a parking lot. And we were serving like 3,000 cars a day, and I'm supposed to vaccinate. And it was raining. I was wearing a poncho. I have a picture. I'll show you guys. But I couldn't even, as a nurse, when you're injecting, right? Like when you're using your nursing skills, you're supposed to, of course, there's a process to do it and whatnot. It's not so hard, and anyone can learn it. It's just you need to be safe and whatnot. But anyways, the point being is that I couldn't even bend my fingers, because you have to be able to hold the needle. I can't even bend my fingers because it's so cold. It's so cold that I couldn't do this. And that's just working from like 7 to 5 in the 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So imagine how colder it would get during nights. So I'm just saying that's one reason. It's not like California's evil, that's why they're coming here. It's practical. It's logical for them to come here because they can survive outside because the weather is pretty great actually. I was going to say calm, but it's great. I almost feel bad talking about California weather because everyone else doesn't have that same blessing. And then also another thing is that there's this quote that I use a lot in my management, and it's called the quote goes, "The system is perfect. It's exactly what you allow." So that means like if we allow these things to happen, it is what's gonna happen. But let's keep him talking, and then we'll respond some more.
We use state law enforcement resources to remove the homeless encampments. Number two, we have to get people.
Okay, so this one, I'll be honest with you guys. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know everything, but my skill set is really my experience, and really I'm pretty good in like analyzing things and like a logical, critical thinking. But my understanding is that there is a law against, like they changed the law that the homeless people can, for the most part, stay there within reasons, right? So it looks like we need to revisit that law as a governor, or whoever is the next governor. If it's me or someone else, they need to revisit that law because the public space, the parks, it doesn't belong to one person. Not because we say that it's for everyone means someone can just take it. This is for safety and for our neighborhood, and it's really not how it's supposed to go.
Into addiction treatment. 80% plus of people who are homeless have either drug or alcohol addiction or severe mental health problems. So we have to get them treatment, and so they can get their lives back on track. And the third part is mental health. We don't have enough mental health provision in California. As governor, I would increase it so we can get people the help that they need.
And last question here.
Okay, so that one I agree with for the most part. It's a pretty good, I think, definition of a problem from someone who works with the homeless population. Those are birds. Marley don't like birds. My love, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay, my love. It's okay, my love. It's okay. It's all right. They're just birding. All right. Shh, my love. Shh. Sorry. So for the homeless population, I think it's not something that, dude, I really wish that they would ask us. I really wish that there's like a public health nurse on this in this groups. There's a or like a physician, someone that actually responds to this community. What I know is that there is definitely a lot of mental health issue, and there is also a correlation between the increase in the homeless population and the increase in when we remove most of the mental health facilities. We still have a lot of funding for mental health, but it's not, I feel bad saying this, but they're not good enough. You can't just like, someone like this needs a lot of intervention and a lot of face time. You can't just visit them once a month and give them a checklist. That's not how it works. I think most nurses would agree with this. The more higher acuity, the more issues that a patient have, the more time that you have to do. Let me give you guys a tip that I tell people as a nurse, right? So when you're visiting, well, I guess, I don't know if this is a tip, but just the FYI, when you're visiting a family member in the hospital, you'll know how bad they're doing depending on their room, because we always place the people that are the sickest closest to the nursing station. And the reason for that is that because they need the most care, you need to go to them as often as possible. So the further away you are, most likely the better you are doing health wise. But I guess I don't want to get too stuck with Hilton because there's a few more candidates, so we'll keep going.
California has gone too far, not far enough, or struck the right balance when it comes to criminal justice reform?
I think it's gone way too far in the wrong direction. And so now you've seen, for example, with Gavin Newsom's prison closure program, tens of thousands of dangerous, violent criminals released into the community or transferred to county jails, which means that they are overcrowded, have a system where you're not held accountable if you break the law. And so that's just one example, the prison closure program. As governor, I would reverse that, increase prison capacity so that we can make sure that those who commit crimes, serious crimes, are behind bars, which also gives us an opportunity to do proper rehabilitation so we reduce reoffending and keep our communities safe.
For people,
I think the idea of rehabilitation is another one that conceptually it sounds good, but the execution is failing big time. And there's a lot of money that I think being, I guess, wasted, unfortunately, with this. So when it comes to that, I do agree. My brother is actually sheriff. So he does give me insight in terms of that knowledge. And it's not fair. It's not fair for them, for us to do all these moves without consulting them. So one, like a lot of these homeless people that have mental health issues, they're landing up in jail. And it's not fair for the patient or, the community member. And it's also not fair for the people that work at those places. We have to have a better system. My proposal is that when they closed a lot of the mental facilities, state-run facilities, the idea was that they're going to open a bunch of city run or county run facilities, and that didn't happen. Those didn't happen. And we need that support for these people. I want to give another example because I have a friend, and another friend of theirs unfortunately suffered from a psychotic break. But this person is pretty dangerous. So there's no way for them to keep the friend, in their house because it's not safe for anyone. And they cannot put the guy in the hospital because the guy don't want to go. But how do you figure that out? Like what is the process if we know as the loved one that someone is suffering from a mental health condition and that they're at risk for themselves and at risk to others? Like, who's going to support that? So this friend is just randomly walking around somewhere. We don't know where this person is, and there's no resource from the government to help them. And I think that's where a lot of these balance comes in. Like as a nurse, as I said multiple times, I'm very big with autonomy, and I'm very big in people making a decision for themselves and being given that opportunity. But we have to have a good, quick assessment to identify the people that won't be able to make that proper decision for themselves. There's a lot of mental health issues, and mental profession, unless you're a mental health professional, it's hard to know right off the bat. So we need someone, and we need to have a system where we can ask for help in their behalf if we know their history, if there's documented mental health issue, and then offer them support. As support that's not like we'll check on you or text you or you can visit us once a month. Not that type of support. Those support don't help, don't work. You need like an actual constant intervention paired with medication, perhaps, paired with like a social therapy and all this other stuff. And I guess that's what I see that we do. And I say this from someone who's learned a lot and work within the system. We do a lot of like half-ass type of interventions. It's like we do, if there's 10 steps, we do the first 2. and then we let go. And we wish that they would just be automatically 3 to 10. But it doesn't work like that. Like anyone who actually have completed something from the beginning to the end knows this to be the case. And I think that's one of the problems with how we handle these things, is that that's how we do things. And I don't think that's fair for anyone involved, and such a total waste of money. Because if you can imagine, you try, you don't fully commit, and then it fails. You try, you don't fully commit, and then it fails again. There's a few of them here, but let's keep listening to these people.
That have never met you before. Talk to me about why you decided to run for governor.
I jumped into this race because we have to do better in California. And I know that we can, because in San Jose, we have led the way for the state in reducing crime, reducing homelessness. And like most Californians, I'm frustrated that over the last 6 years, spending in the state has gone up by 75%. And the outcomes are not improved by 75%. In some areas, things have gotten worse. We have to do better. I know that we can, but it's not easy. We have to build the political will to hold government accountable for reducing the bureaucracy, eliminating the programs and policies that don't work, and make sure we're delivering for working and middle-class families.
He answers well in a very lawyery fashion. You know, it's interesting. I was actually surprised when I heard that he was mayor of San Jose, because I've heard of San Jose. We do a lot of meetings there. And I heard that it's like the number one thing where don't put any valuables in your car where people can see it, because they will smash it. Like they will smash your car and grab it. It's one of those. But that's what I heard. I've never really experienced it myself. One of my coworkers, that happened to them, and they felt so bad because they knew it was going to happen and they could have prevented it. But the suitcase was important, and the suitcase has a tracker, so they actually followed the tracker to find the suitcase, and then I think they called the cops and stuff. But this one, I thought he'd do better than he's doing right now. I know that he is backed by this billionaire in LA. I'm not good. I'm not good with names. I'm sorry. But what I'm seeing in the research is that people don't like him because he claimed that he's just decided to run, and then all of a sudden he has millions already in his campaign funds, which is interesting. But maybe he really does have a lot of those rich friends. I wonder what he actually thinks. He seems very poised and rehearsed, but it's just a bunch of words. I don't really understand much of what he's saying.
If you were to be elected, what would be your top 3 priorities your first year in office?
My focus is on reducing costs and increasing incomes. On the cost side, largely because of the amount of bureaucracy, process, fees that we have imposed in government, we have the highest housing costs, the highest energy costs in the country. We need to reduce the amount of bureaucracy and regulation in the state. We have to attract and
Okay, so housing is a whole separate thing, and we can talk about that, I think, some other time, because it requires a lot. But anyway, so when it comes to that, there's actually a lot. It's actually a lot more complicated than that. So one of them is that, just really quickly, there's a lot of people with conflicting idea of how the solution should be. And I guess the biggest thing that I want to say when it comes to housing is that, everyone agrees that there's a problem. Everyone agrees that solution needs to be made, but they don't, no one wants it to be, they don't want to be part of it. It's like they want to keep their pristine area. They want whatever their neighborhood, they want to maintain it. They don't want more houses. They want to keep what they have. And that's a challenge. And one of the ways that I learned this is that I'm getting a lot of those inquiries and things to answer when it comes to, my position on things. Hey, do you support like this type of housing? And they're conflicting. And I thought that that's interesting. I agree with the fees and regulations. But when it comes to fees and regulations, it's really not just the state. the city, the local officials, it's crazy. It's like it's getting it's multiple layers, I guess, of bureaucracy and fees. And that one I think we should control. But of course, you're gonna have to crack some eggs. So hopefully he's up to the job if he wins.
Investment and good high paying jobs. And right now, there is a real challenge we're facing in the state where we are demonizing and overregulating. It's too expensive to do anything, so jobs are going elsewhere. And we have to get back to basics to bring back jobs and increase incomes while reducing costs, particularly for housing and energy.
We know that California
Increase income. It's a good statement, but I guess the question is how. I do agree there's a lot of regulations when it comes to different legal stuff. Like I remember, I'm part of management, as I mentioned before. So we get those requirements from Cal OSHA, or you have to post this, or you have to post that. And like, I kid you not, the documents this year is like pages and pages and pages that we have to print and display. Like, it's not simple. And it's getting more and more. I do want to say that I think that there's some good in it, but even something good could be too much, I guess. So there has to be a way to kind of consider how this is affecting things, because it is kind of hard to conduct business in California. But I do, like what they say from a company perspective is that it's an employee friendly state. Which again, I think it has some good things, because there's a lot of legal protection here that should be the case, I think. I remember one of my friends, he moved to Virginia. And if you're watching, hi. And his wife is a nurse, and they don't have a cap there. They don't have a ratio for a patient, and their overtime pay is different. And so there's just, and he's like asking me what he can do about it. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I don't know Virginia law. I'm pretty familiar with California employment law because of my job, but I don't know much about Virginia law. But from what he's telling me and how the rules are over there, I think it is good for the employees are protected here. And I think that's a good thing, except sometimes it gets like just a little bit too much, like the PSL, but that's for a different day.
Has spent billions of dollars trying to address the homelessness issue, but it still persists. You can definitely still see it on a lot of city streets, even here in San Francisco. What exactly would you do differently to address this issue?
Well, we need to stop funding failure. In San Jose, we've taken a very different approach, and we have the results to show it. We've built a nation-leading model around prevention, short-term rental assistance with case management to help people when they fall on hard times, to prevent homelessness. Those are the best dollars we can spend. We've invested in shelter and interim housing, and when it's available, we require that people use it, and we get people stabilized indoors, connected to services sooner so that they don't become chronically homeless. When we get upstream what we see on our streets and intervene earlier and more effectively, we reduce a lot of suffering and we actually save a lot of money.
Do you think California has gone too far?
He has strong words. They're kind of funny, I guess. We have to stop funding failure. I think the only thing that I want to add is that it's, from what I've seen, even in my experience, it's easy to judge like plans that are not yours, especially if you're coming from a place that you already know what happened, right? Like the result. So there's a plan, there's a imagination, there's a plan, there's an implementation, and then there was the evaluation portion. And it's easy to come in on the evaluation part and make judgment. Everyone's a critic kind of thing. But really, the best way to do it is to find why it didn't work. Instead of just like removing all those things, because that's how they do it in science. When they do chemistry and they do experiments, you have to study the process that was taken for the, hopefully you do the thing that worked and then kind of start intervention or start the tweaking from when it was identified that it didn't work. So yeah, but um like as the other guy was saying earlier, it's not very smart to loop all the homeless people in the same category, because there's three big chunks. I think the biggest chunk is the people that suffer from substance abuse, and there is that big chunk of people that are suffering from mental health issues. So the interventions for those two different things, or although sometimes they do overlap, but the interventions for those two things is not the same. They're not the same, and trying to make it the same, I think that's where we're wasting the money. And then the last part is that identifying the people um, that are like at risk for being homeless or actually fell through bad times. Like we need to focus on those people. The people that choose to be homeless, that's a different intervention by itself. Because surprisingly, even if you watch like YouTube and whatever of people interviewing, it's a pretty different response. It's not, they some of them, it's a choice. And so a choice for one reason or another, then that's an important data to know. I remember we had this we had this coworker that he lived in his car, and he said that he got evicted, and then he just realized that it's better to live in his car. Like he would rather not spend X amount for rent and live in his car instead, and he can be mobile, and he doesn't have to do extra drive because he's already there. But those data exist, so I think it's good to analyze all this information instead of just looking at it as one problem and they're all the same, because they're not.
Are not far enough or struck the right balance when it comes to criminal justice reform?
Well, it really depends on the crime. I don't believe that our jails and prisons should be our de facto mental health hospitals. I do think we need to build mental health hospitals again and have inpatient treatment and get people into the care that they need. But as we focused on reducing the jail population, we didn't do a very good job of creating an alternative, other interventions, other programs that work. We have mental health diversion in the state that is not working very well, where people are being diverted from a criminal pathway into a program where there's very little accountability, and we're seeing repeat crime. And when someone's coming back and cycling through a second time, a third time, that should be a signal to all of us that something's broken.
Right. So for people who are meeting you,
That's a good point. And because I mean, everyone wants most people want free stuff. So I do agree that that should be part of assessment. Like how many times have this person been, how many times have this person been being in and out of these things, and that needs to be considered. The only thing I want to add is that whenever someone, as we mentioned earlier, there's different reasons for homelessness. Whenever we identify that it could be something like a drug use, then it does take a little bit of time for them to finally accept like interventions to stop using. Oh, Chad Bianco next. Let's see.
the first time, why are you deciding to run to be California's next governor?
Because I know that if we have a chance of bringing California back for all of Californians, it's going to have to be me that does it. I have a lifetime, and my entire adulthood has been making everyone else's life around me better, sacrificing myself at times to make everyone else's life better outside of politics. And I'm taking that same mentality into Sacramento. I think that's what we have been missing. That's what Californians are starving for, is a leader with integrity, with leadership ability, with honesty, to be honest with Californians, but more importantly, to represent everyone.
Now, if you were to be elected,
I think that's a good answer. I think with his background, it shows leadership. I think Steve Hilton was trying to play around a lot with the kneeling stuff, but he said that he's praying, so I don't really know how I think what I think about those, but yeah, let's see what he says.
What would be your top 3 priorities your first year in office?
We absolutely must bring public safety back to the forefront of California. We cannot, even if it's cheap to live here, if it's not safe to live here, nothing works. So public safety has to be number one, and then we have to completely reverse the government influenced and the government caused cost of living in California. All of the regulations that are harming our businesses, our consumers, all have to be removed. The oil industry, we have to be oil.
It's a lot to digest, so let's pause. So when it comes to that, I've actually been doing research because there is that narrative that it's very unsafe in California, right? So they're releasing the bad prisoners and stuff. But according to the data that I've seen, which, could be false also, unfortunately, like the really aggressive crime is actually lower. It's really the petty theft because they've changed the rules on that. Arrest and things like that for like what they call minor crimes. It's almost like they don't even bother anymore. So I guess in terms of safety, it's a matter of how you define safety. I think for me personally, I'm just one person, but me personally, I feel safe most of the time. I mean, I guess I have to. I mean, that's my job. I have to talk to people. I work in downtown LA. I work with the homeless population. So, I have to, I guess, have a different mindset when it comes to that. But he is a sheriff, so maybe he has like a lot more data that we don't have. That's a possibility. And maybe there's something that he doesn't know. But I do want to say, I disagree with some people in regards to this. Some people that are close to me, but I didn't like the timing of him doing the ballot. The confiscating the ballot. I think currently it's on hold. I think it's kind of sad that his team is not backing him up, but I guess it's just the timing. As management, one of the things that we have to do, hi, I don't know, I just got a comment. Hello, thank you for listening. But one of the things that I tell my management team is that perception is key. So if there is a possibility that they will assume you have a bias, right? Because it's your family member or it's the timing, you have to be very aware of that. Because even if it's not your reality, like you have no intention to use this for that purpose. If a lot of people could assume that logically, then it should be avoided. So I think if he had some issues with the ballot, he should have done it sooner, because like especially now that it's him and Hilton on the top, it just seems like I guess almost like a ploy. So much respect to the sheriff. I'm not trying to say that that was his intention. I'm just saying that the perception that it was being used for to put himself more in the media and to have this narrative around him, I just feel like the timing could have been handled better. Because I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I can know this to anyone. Like I feel bad saying this because I don't like um, doing that. But I thought these people are working. Like, why do I have to, like I have to do this on my off day and on my before I work or on my lunch. But like, aren't they working? Anyways, okay, maybe they're on leave. Maybe they're on taking PTO too. But let's keep playing.
Independent in our state. We have to be building independent, build homes that we can afford to buy. And it's all through the regulatory process. Regulations have to be removed for the cost of living. Our education system has to be fixed and remodeled. Our infrastructure, our electricity, our power grid, our water supply, our reservoir situation, our farming, the ability for our farmers to farm.
Now we know that California has.
He just he just went through all the issues, but without much action or without much I guess like actual insight. I did watch him in one of the town halls for, it's not a town hall, but it's like an interview for like Central California. And I didn't quite like the answers to, but maybe we'll do like an uninvited episode on that one later also. Let's see.
And billions of dollars trying to really fix the homelessness issue, but yet the problem really persists. We see it on our streets and everywhere.
Yeah.
What would you do differently if you were to be elected?
Well, we have spent billions of dollars enabling what we see on the street. This is a homeless industrial complex that the money is being used for what money is used for, and that's to make people rich. It is not benefiting the people that are living on the streets and dying on the streets. We have to treat this for what it is. We have to call it what it is, and we have to get these people the help they need for their drug and alcohol addiction and their mental health illness. And just as importantly, the combination of both. This is not about homes. It's never been about homes. And until we address the real issue and we start acting like true, compassionate human beings, caring about these people that are dying on the streets, we're never going to solve it.
So that's one narrative that is floating around, and I can't really blame it because there's a lot of fraud that we're hearing, and it's like such a big shocker. I mean, not really, but it's such a big shocker when you hear people are like, giving peanut butter and jelly to the homeless population, and then using all this money, this funds for their own. But I guess what I want to say, as someone who works with the homeless population and doesn't take anything, just letting you know, I work with a lot of different organizations, and they are trying. There's a lot of organizations that are, I think, trying their best to help this community. There's a lot of good people in California. I really believe this. Of course, there's like bad apples everywhere. And there are, unfortunately, a lot of people that are opportunistic as well. I know this because of my job. But, to dismiss it as completely as it's just something that it's just mainly because people are using this as a business, I think that's a little bit of a stretch because I think there's a lot of people that wants purpose. There's a lot of people that want money, but there's also a lot of people that wants legacy and they want purpose, and they're really trying to find ways. I would actually argue, I may argue, that some people might use this more as their something to feed their intentions to be heroes rather than to feed their luxury lifestyle. But that's just my thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of fraud. And again, the numbers are big. Because, of course, if you're going to steal or cheat or conduct something like this, you're going to go for the gold. So it's always such a big thing when we hear it in the news. But I've helped and served like a lot right next to a lot of people, and they mean well, and they actually want to do good for this population. But I guess I just want to add also that when it comes to that, it cannot be fractured. Like, it cannot be like you do this, you do that. Like, it needs to be a coordinated effort. There's no way. It's like, they drop off food at 10, and a different group drop off food at 11, and a different group drop off at 12. I helped, let me see, close to Thanksgiving at Midnight Mission to provide lunch. So, that's a pretty humbling experience because they open the door and just like a flood of people come in to ask for food. The interesting part is that they're asking for protein because a lot of people give carbs, I guess. And they're like, any protein, and that's usually the first to go. I mean, carbs are cheaper, so protein is more expensive, unfortunately. That one time before Thanksgiving, we actually ran out. So the good people of Midnight Mission, and someone ran to Costco to get a bunch of pizza, and we just kind of slice it and just try to, to give it to the community. Like, it was pretty busy, pretty satisfying to help the community. But the interesting take was that I did that close to Thanksgiving, and there was barely any people. And they said that it's because during that time, a lot of nonprofit groups or people feel more giving. So there's a lot more that's happening. But, I think food is of course, not that I think, but food is a basic necessity. So, of course, we need to provide that. But the idea, and this is the management in me, if 10 groups will provide 10 different food, why not just provide one group provide food and then the other group just kind of combine their efforts and provide something else. You know what I mean? So, and I said that in my speech that I think it's almost sometimes it's almost insulting the way that we are handling our homeless community members, because it's really not about the amount of money that you kind of throw at them. And they did a lot of studies in this, like if people are not in a place where they know how to manage that resources, it's not going to work. You can't just you can't do that and just imagine that things will work. In the sense, it never works like that.
Do you want to talk about criminal justice reform? Do you think California has gone too far, not far enough, or struck the right balance when it comes to criminal justice reform?
Well, the entire state knows we have gone way too far. And again, a play on words of calling it reform. By saying the word reform, we believe that it convinces us that something's broken and we have to fix it. But the reality of California's criminal justice reform is an absolute sick and twisted love affair with criminals. They are doing everything they can for the last 15 years to enable criminal behavior, to prevent law enforcement from keeping you safe, all in this unhealthy addiction to criminals at the expense of law-abiding Californians and truly at the expense of victims.
These are very strong statements, and I think he appeals to some people that are pretty passionate, from one side to the other, I guess. But I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that we have love for the criminals. And again, just a reminder for people who don't know, I am running with no party, so I'm not. So, but I've been researching this when it comes to our movements with like the reforms that we've done with our laws and our jails and stuff. And again, my brother, I'm very proud of him. And my brother is sheriff, so I do have, I talk to him about some of this sometimes. But I want to say that the focus from the other side, so from the Democratic side, is more of like just a common decency and respect, because that the idea is that they're saying that how these prisons are managed is just not really conducive to a proper living, right? But of course, there's that argument: how much money are you willing to spend to make them as comfortable as possible? Jail is not supposed to be like a walk in the park. But to saying that we have like that love for criminals, I'm not sure that, and I'm actually sure that I don't agree with that. I think it's just about looking at the other side of the coin. And as a nurse, I understand that half of the coin. I also, as a manager, understand his side of the coin, because these people are people, and sometimes, like sometimes you can reach them, so they're not that. You can. We can still rehabilitate, but there's always, I guess, the point of how far do you go. So, but I don't think it's the one way or another. I don't think it's that extreme.
We have to start being honest with what we are doing. We have to hold people accountable for victimizing us. If you're going to victimize us, you're going to suffer the consequences of what people suffer in a civilized society, and that is jail time. If you are going to choose to break the law, you are going to go to jail. If you get out and break the law again, you're going to jail for longer.
For people that are...
Yeah, so I can see, I wonder on a logical sense, I wonder how much how much of the population that actually would work to. Like if you do something wrong, you go to jail. If you do more things, more jail. So, but it's like, do we just keep them forever? I feel like that was the law before. But I really believe, and this is why I'm running in the middle, is that we have to give room for the other side of the argument. It has to be complementary. We have to find ways to have that like tougher approach. I think we have been maybe a little too lenient lately, but a tougher approach in handling these things, but also while still acknowledging that we have to give them an opportunity to be better, to give them an opportunity to come back to us in our community and participate. Because in my experience, as a mother and as a nurse and as a manager, sometimes people need to see that you believe in them. Obviously, it depends on the crime, right? Depends on like the things that people have done, but we've all done, bad things. Maybe not enough to get us to jail. But what I'm trying to say is that it's very powerful when you give someone, when you look at someone and you tell them that I believe you can do it. Sometimes it's all you need is someone to say that. Like me running for governor, my husband said it. So, someone believing in you makes it so that you're like, maybe I can do it. If you see that in me, maybe there is that person inside.
Meeting you for the first time.
Yeah.
Why are you deciding to run for governor?
Yeah, our state's facing the biggest affordability crisis ever. So many challenges around homelessness. And I want to give working Californians a tax credit so that you all have more money for those, expenses like groceries, gas, and housing. I love this state. I've served it for 18 years as an elected official. I believe I have the experience and a vision to serve, and I want to help our state be better.
Now, if you are elected,
I'm so weird. My nurse in me is like, oh no, he looks so tired. I feel bad. I'm tired, but I should be napping. But I'm not, because I felt passionate about responding to this and a little jealous that they didn't invite me. So yeah. But let's see how he plans to implement those.
what are your top 3 priorities going to be the first year in office?
We have to make sure that people can afford to have a home. And so as governor, I'm going to provide down payment assistance programs. I have a very unique housing plan that will allow us to build 2 million units of housing over the next few years. It uses surplus property that exists on school campuses in every county in our state. There are 75,000 acres of land ready for development. So it will be housing. It will be.
It's not a bad idea. I didn't know we have that much floating about. The only thing is, I don't know if this is true. If you guys can tell me. That property, who owns it? Is it the state or is it the city? Because we can't just take it if it's the city. I guess technically we can as a state, but that's like, that's like a last resort. They won't like that at all. But anyways, on top of that, there are zoning laws that are predominantly handled by the city, in my understanding. So even if we can utilize those spaces, I wonder if that would work for zoning. I don't know where this place are from, but outside the box idea, I think that's it requires at least a further look.
Helping our homeless. As I said, I'm working to get $10 billion for building affordable housing and helping the 10,000 unaccompanied homeless minor youth.
There's a lot there. More money for homeless. Again, I think, and I said this before, I think overall, Californians don't mind too much giving, but it's just when we feel that it's not going anywhere, it's kind of like, dude, like, stop taking my money. Let me handle my money. I'll help them. So 10 billion is a lot. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, it's not a straightforward answer. We need to analyze and assess why they're homeless. That's the first question, is assessment.
Who are on their own, who need help. I support a single-payer healthcare program.
I think he said minors, unaccompanied minors. I don't know if that's still a thing, but I did encounter them when I was working at a few different places, because some people will visit us and they are like foster parents, and then so I have to take care as a nurse some kids that cross the border alone. So I don't know if you guys know, but some of them, I guess, according to the foster mom, right? I'm sure there's a lot of them, so I'm sure every one story is different. But just sharing what I saw or what I heard from them is that they would cross the border alone, which is very scary, and they would have like the name and phone number of their family member in their pockets. And then I met this girl, and it's just the saddest thing. Her cute little face is still stuck in my brain. And she crossed the border alone, but she doesn't have any number. They didn't find any number. So, of course, we are trying to connect these kids to their families. Hopefully that's what he said, or else I'm going on a different tangent here, but whichever. So they like they're trying hard to find this kid's parents. And I want to say one more thing, which is kind of sad, that I learned or I've seen as a nurse. These kids, they look different. They don't respond like regular kids. I know that, like, especially new parents, they might get annoyed that their kids are loud and screamy and, and passionate and like verbal. But those are signs of, it could be too much also, like, yeah, there's always a balance. But for the most part, those are signs of a healthy, growing child. It's like a baby, when they first during birth. If we want them to cry, most of the time we're looking at crying as a sad thing. But as a nurse, as a medical professional, we like the crying. Cry. We want you to cry. That's what usually what happens. So I guess for these kids, when they get vaccinated or whatnot, they don't cry. They're just like this, and it's just so sad that it seems like it's almost like they're tired, because crying is, you're assuming, you're thinking, at least for kids, you're thinking that it's a sign, it's a signal for adults or someone right there to come to you, to come to your aid. But according to psychology, these kids that have cried so much, it's like it's pointless. Psychologically, they're thinking that these tears are pointless, and the expression of sadness is pointless because there's no one there to help them. So that's just like such a sad thing to do. But I think most nurses who works with kids, you can identify them. You really can tell like which one is kind of, and I think those are the intuitions of nurses that that makes us like key people in like identifying this type of things. But anyway, sorry, I got sidetracked. Let's see what he says.
Program and fighting back against Donald Trump. This reckless immigration policy that we have seen is devastating our communities. I'm working on legislation that would put a tax on any company that operates an ICE detention center. And as governor, I'll work with Congress to abolish ICE and to create a pathway to citizenship for those who just want to work and pay taxes here.
California.
It's not a bad thought to create a policy to create a way to allow them to work here. I was thinking of something similar as well. But the governor has no authority to abolish ICE, and then so it's kind of interesting whenever I hear this statement, because I don't know if I don't know if they know that they can't, or I don't know if they know that they can't, or they know they can't and they're just saying that, but we'll see.
Yeah, has spent billions addressing homelessness, but yet it still remains a huge problem in our state. What would you do differently to address homelessness?
I think there has to be accountability in how those dollars get spent. And we have to make sure if there's any waste or abuse that we, put a spotlight on that and take care of that. So I think that for every dollar we spent for programs for those who are unhoused, we have to require that the participants participate in mental health and substance abuse programs. I'm also working on legislation right now that would put a measure on the ballot for Californians to vote on that, if passed, would give us $10 billion to build more housing. And
no more additional money taken from people's pockets. I guess that's, I don't know. Maybe I should check my biases myself. But every time I'm hearing more money, I'm like, dude, stop with the spending. We have to assess what we have right now. Like $350 to $420 billion is a lot. It's a lot of money. Can we please just stop spending for now? Just for now. Like 1 year. Let's just revisit everything. And then once we know exactly where we're at, then maybe we can spend. But this is just like, it's cray. But okay, so with that being said, I think a lot of people are asking, it's been like something that's being thrown around in the news often. So I'll just kind of say my piece on this one. Everyone's talking about, we don't know where this billions of dollars went for the homeless. But how it works is that there's a lot of organizations, nonprofit and for-profit organizations, that these funds go to, right? As long as they're approved, and that's a separate story, approved by this committee or whatnot, and they will follow the rules on how to get approved, then they can they can get the funds, but they award it, and then from then you don't really see much anymore. So I don't know about it. Doesn't really like disappear, but it's like a lot of handoff, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So federal gave it to state, and then state gave it to county, and then county gave it to the cities, and then cities gave it to this. So there's a lot of that handoff. But especially with the advancement in technology, I think we can afford to go a little bit deeper and make sure that there's ownership and accountability on this money. Like there has to be, since it's a lot. And then also I want to say we have to work more in terms of following through. As I was saying earlier, it's like stage 1 to 2. Like there has to be a valuation portion, even if before they ask for more money next time. So yeah, it's just it's so mismanaged. Like that's like a management 101. So I don't know why that's not being implemented currently, especially with all the smart people that's in hopefully in our government and all the technology. It should be not that hard of a way if we want to.
I think a big portion of that, if passed, would need to go to helping those who are homeless.
Do you think that California has gone too far, not far enough, or struck the right balance when it comes to criminal justice reform?
When I was on the city council in Richmond, that city was considered the most dangerous city per capita in the state of California. And we approached it in a way where we had a combination approach for how we address crime and safety. And today, violent crime has been significantly reduced. We did this through adding more police. You have to have police in your community. Someone has to answer the call when a crime has been committed, but you can't police or arrest your way out of the problems that we are seeing. You have to also have intervention programs. And, as a council member, as a legislator, I've grown programs to provide paid employment training opportunities as a way of keeping people out of engaging in criminal activity. You do have to have diversion programs that give someone a chance at a second chance. But we have to recognize that there has to be accountability for people's actions,
For people that are meeting you for the first.
Okay, I like a lot of the things that he said there, and I think that's his experience that he's pulling from. So I like police. I think it's pretty sad that we had a lot of this defund the police. It's like, dude, so who do you call? It's kind of like I saw this news about this lady. I think it's in LA. Sorry, again, I'm not good with names. I probably should. But anyways, there's this defund the police girl, and she's like, and then she used all the cops and paid them all overtime to protect her for this like speech. And it's like, dude, it's kind of not cool. It's either you want them or you don't. But I want to disclose my bias because my brother is a sheriff and I love him dearly. But I've always liked the police. There's some, as I mentioned earlier, there's some bad apples everywhere in nursing, medicine, doctors, police. There has to be a little bit more grace on their ends since they do have authority. Anyone who holds more authority than others needs to be a little bit more gentler, I think. But for the most part, we need police. So I don't know. I don't know what they plan to do if there's no police. And but yeah, so a multi-step process I think is a good idea.
Why are you deciding to run for governor of California?
I'm running for governor of California to bring down costs for regular Californians. Affordability has become a big buzzword, but people don't need politicians telling them that life is unaffordable. They know. I'm a single mom of 3 teenagers. I push the grocery cart. I pay the bills. I fill up my minivan with gas. So I know what it's like to see your expenses go up and dollars not just stretch far enough. Affordability has been my life's work, studying families pushed into bankruptcy by medical debt or job loss, running a statewide foreclosure prevention program for then Attorney General Kamala Harris. So
it's interesting to hear her talk because it sounds so consistent that it sounds rehearsed, unfortunately. And I can't blame her. Like I had to record an interview, like a advertisement for myself for the campaign. And I had to record an advertisement and I have to memorize my lines, just the most annoying thing. I can never be an actor. So kudos to everyone who can act. That's pretty good. But yeah, so she's consistently in the message, which I guess is good. I was talking to someone last night and they were saying, yeah, just make sure that your message is consistent, which I can see, right? You don't want like a politician that's like wiggly waggly with their opinions. But I do want to say, I think we need to all be aware that there's still a lot of learning to do. No one's done. No one's done learning. So if you hear a good idea, if you hear like a good argument against your own, I think the healthy way is to revisit and to change it and to modify it if necessary. But yeah, her lines is always kind of the same. And I feel bad saying it, but I don't like the flex that she does the groceries or she knows how much is groceries. It's like, dude, it's like an everyday. It's an everyday thing.
We need big solutions on affordability. People aren't leaving California because they're $5 or $10 short. They're leaving California because they are hundreds and hundreds of dollars away from being able to take care of their family the way they want.
And if you were to be elected, what would be your top 3 priorities your first year in office?
We have to look at what are families' biggest expenses. So they are housing, first and foremost. It takes up most of people's budget. So building more housing, building housing much more quickly. We build 2 years slower in California than in Colorado. We can do better. We're the most innovative state in the world, in the country, so we can innovate in how we build housing, different construction techniques, different materials.
Yeah, there's a lot of like reasons why we're slow. Like it's not just the bureaucracies in terms of building houses. Everyone's suing you. And hopefully I don't get sued in this YouTube what is this called? It's a live YouTube stream. But anyways, everyone's suing. That's why it gets so slow. Everything is on pause. And that statement that we need to build faster, it's a good statement. It's an accurate statement. But it's not really a matter of we didn't know we were slow. But there's so many things that are blocking our pathways. And again, this is why I'm so excited with technology, because if I win as governor, I'm going to expose all these people that's making this impossible for us to move forward to the goal that we all want. Because there's a lot of like hidden forces that are at play and we just don't see them, but they're there and they don't even get mentioned.
My second priority is free childcare for every Californian. You can talk to any kind of economist from the far left to the far right, and they will all say that bringing down the cost of childcare is the biggest thing we could do to make our economy grow and accelerate. And then the third thing is we talk about
I'm trying to digest that. I know in New York, and they were saying that too, free childcare. And childcare is very expensive. But what if, bear with me, what if we just give parents an opportunity to stay with their kids? I believe I have 5 kids, as I think you guys already know. So I really believe that first 5 years of life is pretty huge for the kids' development, because what it is that they have to get to know you, and you become their memory. They need, when they're in a dark place, when they're having a tough time, we look back at our childhood, and then some we don't remember. We just automatically do it. But yeah, we need some time, and we need to invest in our families, not necessarily to give them more opportunities to leave home, but perhaps the intervention should be to give them the opportunity to stay home without going bankrupt if they want to. Again, if people want to work early or, utilize childcare, no issues with that. But I'm just saying that I think we need another option. It should not just be, have someone else take care of our kid. For me and my husband, what we had to do is that we, at least when the babies were small, we just couldn't see each other. So I remember our third one is like small. So what we would do is that we put him in the car seat, and while he's asleep, he drives at 4 in the morning or 4:30 in the morning, and then we just switch cars, and then we would drive him home. So, but we have the advantage of we work at the same location. It's a 24 hours. It's not easy. I'm not saying it is, but and then there's this joke that I thought was cute, and I think it's Dave Chappelle, and I'm not so sure, but I like stand-up comedy. And he said that you can tell a good neighborhood by how many parents are like strolling at 10 a.m. with their babies, just like strolling around the neighborhood. So that's a sign of a good neighborhood. Let's play.
Affordability. And I've taken on big corporations and greedy corporations with my whiteboard in Congress. But one of the things we can do for affordability is change government's role in it. So to that end, I will eliminate state income tax for Californians making less than $100,000. That is a real affordability solution. We can deliver it right away.
And I do want to talk about homelessness.
This is not my forte, but there's this psychology of like how long they hold a stare when they don't mean what they say. I wonder what they would say in terms of this stare. But that's the same policy from Hilton, I think. And again, the idea by itself is good. I would want everyone to not pay taxes if they make less than 100K. But the problem is, where are you going to get that money? Because that money is already calculated and to pay for programs and pay for a bunch of different things. So are you going to cut those programs? Are you going to increase the taxes for someone else? Like, where does that money come from then? What would replace it?
California has spent billions trying to address this big issue. What would you do differently to address homelessness?
It's really hard to solve a problem when the problem's getting bigger. So we have to focus on preventing people from becoming homeless. That is really important. Well, we're not right now. We're putting all of our money in helping those who have experienced long-term homelessness. Those people are important. They're Californians, and we need to get them into permanent supportive housing. But homelessness and the path to get there are other intervention points that are much less expensive and much more humane. So things like rapid rehousing, eviction prevention strategies, these work. They're cheaper and they stop people from ever having to live on our streets.
Do you think that California is?
I think even that, I guess everything has a potential for abuse, but even that currently is being abused at this current moment, where the laws in terms of eviction is pretty, I guess, illogical. The people can just come in with their backpack while they're looking at a home and say, oh, it's mine. It's mine now. And it's a civil case. And then you have to take like a long time and they drag you before you can get your property back. So as I said earlier, I think it starts with assessment, to identify these people. I agree with her. To identify the people at risk for going homeless right off the bat is like a good strategy. But, it doesn't really address the issue of the current homeless that's already in the streets.
Gone too far, not far enough, or has struck the right balance when it comes to criminal justice reform?
We're definitely moving in the right direction on criminal justice reform, particularly in terms of looking back at what are the consequences of our three-strike law. In terms of retail theft, which has been a big issue, in terms of street crime, prevention is always going to be the first strategy, because it's not just about catching the person and punishing them and they commit a crime. We all think that should happen. It is about making sure that people feel confident that they can walk down the street safely. They can go to a playground with their kids and be safe. So Fast Prop 36, that's focused on punishment. We need punishment, but we really need to dig in on prevention and making our streets feel safe.
Mm-hmm. As a nurse, I'm big with prevention. But again, like, there's an issue now. And I am curious about her statement that we're going on the right track. So I wonder how far of a track she's willing to go.
People that are meeting you for the first time, why would you say that you're deciding to run for California governor?
I'm a proven problem solver. I've said that this state has given me more than I could have ever imagined. My grandpa came with a shirt on his back from León, Guanajuato, Mexico, with a dream. I tell folks that never in my lifetime did I ever think I'd be Speaker of the California State Assembly or Mayor of Los Angeles. But the one thing I know, we also face big challenges. Challenge number one is affordability. Challenge number two, right with number one, is the threat to our democracy posed by Donald Trump. We need a proven problem solver. Everybody's going to talk well, including in these interviews. but I'm somebody that's actually done it. And that's what I'm running on.
Now, if you were to be elected, what would be your top 3 priorities your first year in office?
Priority number 1 is to make sure that we're living within our means. The next governor is going to face an $18 to $30 billion deficit, according to the legislative analyst. The idea that we just could cut our way out of that is just a pipe dream. Now,
I don't agree. I don't agree with that. He said that the idea that we can cut our way through that is a pipe dream. There's a lot of ways. And I'm saying this as someone who's been inside some of these organizations, and I saw it in my eyes. So if it's me, like in a small scale, I can see how much things could be done. When it comes to affordability, and one of the reasons that I'm running, I actually think that it's going to be significant if someone actually wants to solve it. Like, there's some drastic things that we can do, and it would be very evident right off the bat.
Need a grown-up who will make the tough calls. But we also got to grow our economy. We got to address the fact that this is the toughest state to do business in the United States of America. And small business is suffocating in this state. So we got to grow our economy, and we've got to address the big challenges, the challenge of homelessness, the challenge of safety, good schools. We need a governor that's going to focus on the basics. Get, common sense, competence, and a course correction.
What would you do differently to approach homelessness?
I built more affordable workforce and market rate housing than the 12 years before me. So we need a builder. But let's be clear. We can't keep on throwing money at the problem. We have to understand that we need to invest in what works and stop doing what doesn't. I've said, I don't believe in criminalizing homelessness. I do believe in compassion, but I don't believe in chaos. And when you're selling drugs in front of cops, that's chaos. So we need an approach that focuses on providing a network of investment in services and housing. But the average house for homeless right now costs $850,000. Reporters can't pay that. Their children can't pay that. So what I've said is tiny homes are being built in LA for $100,000. We've got to be smart about how we expend these resources and not just throw money at the problem.
Let's talk about.
Someone told me, when we were talking about the homelessness in downtown LA, she made a statement. She's like, I can't afford a home in downtown LA. So the land is expensive. Everything is expensive. So of course it's going to cost that way.
Criminal justice reform. Do you think California has gone too far, not far enough, or has struck the right balance when it comes to criminal justice reform?
I led the fight against 3 strikes you're out when I was in the legislature. I'm against the death penalty. But I tell people, I believe in accountability. When you keep on stealing and you're on drugs and you get arrested and you refuse drug treatment the first time, the second time, the third time, you're going to jail. That's why I supported Prop 36. We can't be ideologues with these things. The next governor's number 1 priority has to be public safety.
It's not even just public safety, but it's the right thing to do. It's not ethical to handle people like that because they're not safe for themselves. So the intervention has to match a proposed, I guess, health, that hopefully we can aim for them to be rehabilitated or to be healthy again. So it's not just about the public, but the people themselves. Do we just kind of accept that they'll be in and out? And I do see those. I do have access to those, so I do see those, and it's just kind of sad. It's not working. That process is not working.
That means fire and police. We've got to focus on protecting the public, and I will, because I have a record on it. So,
okay, so I guess I've been talking for an hour and 34 minutes. Thank you so much for whoever stayed and hang out with me. I think I have a few more candidates, but I'll do that some other time. And yeah, if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to put it on the thing. And yeah, have a beautiful day, you guys. Talk to you guys soon.